Hi everybody, this is Joe from PrepAgent. Welcome to the webinar. Today is Monday. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me, or better yet, if you can hear me, tell me the city you are from. If you can hear me, tell me the city you are from. And the reason we are doing that is because if you see somebody from the same city as you, maybe you guys could hook up and form a study group and kind of exchange ideas and help each other pass the exam and move forward with your career. So if you see other people from your city, don't be afraid to give them a shout out. And of course, as always, use our Facebook group as much as possible. And sometimes it's a good idea just to type in the search the name of your state or even city sometimes, and people who mention that state will come up in that Facebook group. And for those of you guys who are new, who are wondering how we have people from all over the country here, it's because in these webinars, what we do is we pull out the information that applies to everybody. We don't go over state-specific information. We work really hard to kind of base these webinars on things that apply to everybody. So obviously, you have to do a little more studying beyond this webinar to hit on those things that are specific to your state. But those things that apply to everybody, like what is real property, a freehold estate, what's the market data approach, etc., we go over here. So with that being said, welcome to the webinar and let's begin. So today we're talking about agency. And when we talk about agency, there's an acronym you guys should remember. Who knows what that acronym is? Congratulations, Victoria Stewart. Great job. Okay, so what acronym do we need to know when we're talking about agency? A cold, good. Some of you have old car, excellent. So what you have to know is accountability, confidentiality, obedience, loyalty, and disclosure. Now I want everybody to write that down. Accountability, confidentiality, obedience, loyalty, disclosure. I want to see it in the chat as much as possible. Accountability, confidentiality, obedience, loyalty, and disclosure. One of our techniques that Arthur, Adrian, and I always promote is that writing will help you guys remember this, whether it's by hand or typing it in. Because let's be honest, this stuff is super boring. So writing it keeps you active rather than looking at a screen or listening to audio and frankly just zoning out and then being like, what am I looking at? Or who's this guy talking? I forgot even what I'm listening to. How many of you guys have done that, where you've kind of listened to this stuff, you've heard my voice, you've heard the webinars, and it becomes such in the background that you're just like, I don't even know what that dude babbling about is doing. So writing helps you stay focused on what you're doing so you learn. Okay, so we got a cold: accountability, confidentiality, obedience, loyalty, and disclosure. When you are representing somebody, there is this other word that comes up that is super important. Okay, what do you guys think? There's this other word where you become loyal to that person. What is it? Where you put their interests above and beyond your own. Who knows what that word is? So the word I'm looking for is fiduciary. Fiduciary duty. When you become an agent of somebody, you create a fiduciary relationship, which means you put their interests above and beyond your own. Okay, so you get that fiduciary relationship going. Okay, so we have this agency relationship and some other words that come up that tend to confuse people a lot. And tell me if you guys get confused by this. And be honest, everybody's got to participate here. Nobody judges. We've had an excellent record of people being nice to each other. It was a great surprise because we weren't sure what we were going to get, especially when you're dealing with the online world. But don't be afraid to participate. Everybody's nice. And if somebody's not nice, Adrian will block them and delete them forever. And what I want you to tell me is if you get confused by the definition of client, customer, and principal. Who's heard those words before? Client, customer, and principal. And you're like, I know somebody's working for somebody and something's happening and somebody's getting paid and something to that effect. Okay, so client, customer, and principal. Well, you kind of know it, but you're like, I'm not exactly sure. So for those you guys get confused, in 1 minute you will understand it perfectly. In fact, Adrian, I think we even have a video on this. Okay, so for those of you guys who are not confused by this, help everybody else out and write the definition and the difference between client, customer, and principal. So I see some people are confused, some people are not. Jesus Acosta says he's not confused. So therefore, write that definition in the chat if you're not confused. Okay, and I will start with this. Natasha Jackson nailed it, said client and principal are the same thing. So let's start there. A client and a principal is the same thing. Okay, so let's clear that misconception up. Those two are not different. And I'll say it one more time. A client and a principal are the same thing. However, a customer is excuse me, guys. A customer is a little bit different. You see, a client, who's also known as a principal, as we just said, you have loyalty to them. You're on their team. A customer you have to treat with honesty and fairness, but you don't have that obligation of loyalty to them. So, for example, when you get a listing, okay, what is a listing? Who could tell me what a listing is? What is a listing? What is a listing? Somebody tell me what a listing is. So a listing is an employment contract. That's what it is at its core. I know guys are like, it's this thing where you got to like find a buyer and sell a home and something, I don't know, and it's important and whatever. It's an employment contract. The seller is the employer in that situation. They are employing you as an independent contractor, okay? So when the seller employs you, you have a fiduciary relationship to them. They are now your client. They are the principal. Everybody got it? Right? Got it if you got it. They are the client, okay? The buyer coming to that house is now the customer, is now that customer. You owe the buyer honesty and fairness. For such example, you got to disclose things when you see something like a material fact. What is a material fact? It's something you can visually see with your eye. For example, if there's a crack in the roof, you say, I see a crack in the roof. Now, you are only a real estate agent. You are not an inspector and a construction person or Superman himself. So you don't say, oh, there's a crack in the roof, there's foundation trouble. That's not what you need to do. All you need to do is say it's a crack in the roof. That's called a material fact because it's easily seen by an untrained eye. Everybody understand that? So that buyer, even though you're not loyal to them, you have to disclose that material fact because you have the obligation of honesty and fairness to them. All right, but your loyalty in the negotiation process is to that seller, okay, because they are your client. All right, everybody, we're off to a good start. Is my connection good? I feel like my connection's good. I feel like everybody hears me well. At least I hear myself well. And I sound glorious. Okay, rock and roll. I feel like people who said rock and roll, that was like in the late 70s, early 80s. I feel like people don't say that anymore, at least not the young ones. Do you guys remember? They'd be like, rock and roll. I feel like people don't do that anymore. Okay, let's do a question on the board. Failure to perform any of the terms or conditions of a contract is called A, novation, B, addendum, C, break, or D, breach. Kristen Caviar is clearly under 30 if she says no one says that. Everybody over 40 totally said that. Okay, and the answer on the board is breach. What is a novation? Who could tell me what a novation is? What is a novation? Okay, we need to remember that nova is Latin for new. Nova is Latin for new. So with that being said, I'd like to test your grasp of Latin. So my next question is, what is ad valorem? Ad valorem. Who could tell me what ad valorem means? Ad valorem. Ad valorem means according to value. According to value. Excellent. What does caveat emptor mean? Caveat emptor. What does caveat emptor mean? Caveat emptor would mean, drum roll please, buyer beware. Buyer beware. Buyer beware. I would like you to tell me, what does lease pendants mean? Lease pendants mean. What is lease pendants? Lease pendants. Lease pendants would be Latin for lawsuit pending. I'd also accept pending litigation. And if you ever dealt with it, it's horrible. Lease pendants basically means that when you go to sell your house, somebody's coming in and basically saying it's not yours to sell. And they're going to file lease pendants, which brings you into an annoying process to figure out who owns the property. And beyond all, it sucks for the guy who wanted to buy the house, who put in an offer, and now has to wait for you to figure this out. Okay, and that's what that lease pendants is all about. Are you guys feeling motivated? Who's feeling motivated? If you're feeling motivated, right, rock and roll. Two things come up when I think of rock and roll. The band Kiss and the movie Dazed and Confused. Dazed and Confused comes up. I don't know why. Maybe they say in that movie. I don't know. Okay. Several brokerage firms were accused of violating antitrust laws. Of the following, they were most likely accused of A, price fixing, B, undisclosed dual agencies, C, dealing in unlicensed exchange services, D, not having an equal housing opportunity in an office window. And the answer is 3, 2, 1. Price fixing. Price fixing. And we'll talk about that in a second. But first, I want to ask you, do you guys know what is the Sherman Antitrust Act? What is the purpose of the Sherman Antitrust Act? Who could tell me? What is the purpose of the Sherman Antitrust Act? The Sherman Antitrust Act is there to promote free market competition. Free market competition. And one of those things that violates the Sherman Antitrust Act is price fixing. Price fixing. What that means is it's forcing everybody in the community to use the same prices. Example would be, everybody in the community has to list homes for 6%. Nobody's allowed to do it for under 6%. You can't do that because everybody's allowed to promote themselves at whatever price they want. If they want to say, you know what, we'll list our house for 2%, fine. If we'll list our house for 10%, great. Oh, thanks, Dan. Much appreciated. So that is price fixing. My question to you guys is, can a broker force everybody in his brokerage to list the houses at 6%? What do you guys think? Can a broker force everybody in their brokerage, in their office, to list for 6%? And the answer is yes, because they're all in the same brokerage. Now, if they don't work for him, they work for another brokerage in the community, you can't force them to do that. That would be a Sherman Antitrust Act. So be careful on that. That was a little bit of a tricky question. It looks like I got some of you guys. But does everybody get it? If you're all working under the same brokerage, there could be an agreement of that office that we're all going to work for 6%. And if you don't like it, go work somewhere else. That's different than requiring everybody in the community, regardless of what brokerage they work for, to list for 6%. Everybody got that? Who could give me another example of the Sherman Antitrust Act? Who could give me another example of the Sherman Antitrust Act? Amy Moore gave me a wow. I feel like giving you a high five, Amy Morrell. Who could give me another example? Tie-in agreements. Nice job, Rachel Hahn. Boycotting. So boycotting would be like, oh, Renee's coming to our town. Nobody talk to Renee. Nobody talk to her. Everybody ignore her. Okay? That would be illegal. Can't do that. Can't do that group boycotting. Okay, you can't do like geographic targeting where you separate the community and say, you take the north side, I'm going to take the south side. You don't come into my part of town and I won't come into yours. Cannot do that. We could go into much more depth about that, but I want to move on. But we do have a video on the Sherman Antitrust Act you guys could watch. Adrian, if you have that video, if you could put it in the chat, that'd be great. So we do have a video, or just look up on YouTube, PrepAgent Sherman Antitrust Act. I feel like we come up a lot in the search engines now. When you guys look up real estate exam, do you find us? Okay, moving right along. A representative with the full authority to bind the principal to all agreements is A, a special agent, B, a general agent, C, a double agent, or D, an accidental agent. Okay, here we go. Adrian just put up an article on the Sherman Antitrust Act. Okay, it's a general agent. So you got this agent thing. So what is a special agent? What is a special agent? Like James Bond. What is a special agent? Why is James Bond a special agent? Special Agent 007. Why is he a special agent? I love James Bond. Don't we all love James Bond? Daniel Craig was awesome. So James Bond is special agent because he was hired to do one task, and when he did that task, he was done. He went back to sleeping in his bed in his sweet apartment in London or wherever he lived. One purpose, done, fun, see you later. Okay? You, as a real estate agent, are just like James Bond, which is why you should dress like him if you're a guy. And if you're a girl, you should dress like the evil lady villain in James Bond because they dress snappy and professional and awesome. So you guys are special agents. When you list a home, you're hired for that one act and it's done. After you do that, you move on. You move on. Whereas a general agent, it's ongoing. It's an ongoing task. It doesn't stop, all right? Does everybody get that? Who could give me an example of a general agent? Who could give me an example of a general agent? So like a property manager would be a general agent, okay? A property manager. And other examples of special agent, an accountant, When they do your taxes, a special agent, that would be a special agent. All right. Okay, move right along. Which of the following statements about the law of agency is correct? A, it establishes a fiduciary relationship. B, it refers specifically to insurance. C, it does not require a high degree of loyalty and fidelity from an agent. D, there is no employment relationship. So here it said, how about a universal agent? So they have a broad spectrum of things they could do for somebody for an extended period of time. That's a universal agent. Whereas a general agent, it's a specific thing, but it's ongoing. I hope that helps. We are rocking tonight. Okay, it establishes a fiduciary relationship. Good. And remember, we talked about that fiduciary relationship. It has to do with loyalty. Loyalty. In case you guys are wondering why I like KISS so much, Gene Simmons, the leader of KISS, once sat next to me on a plane. True story. This was like a year ago, not even. And he sat next to me, and I was like, don't talk to him. Don't talk to him. He's so awesome. Don't talk to him. And he was like super nice to me. I looked at him. He looked at me. I looked at him. He looked at me. And he was like, Gene Simmons. I'm like, I know. He's like, KISS. I was like, yeah. And he said, and you? I said, Joe, PrepAgent. He said, oh, okay, cool. I was like, right. I just felt the need to kind of counter his KISS with a little PrepAgent reference to him. And he was like, you're the coolest, man. No, he didn't say that. Okay, moving right along. Which of the following would not terminate an agency relationship? Submission by the agent of two offers at the same time. B, abandonment by the agent. C, fulfillment of the agency purpose. D, revocation by the principal. What do you guys think? Which of the following would not terminate an agency relationship? A, submission by the agent of two offers at the same time. B, abandonment by the agent. C, fulfillment of the agency purpose. Or D, revocation by the principal. And the answer is A. Good. By the way, if this chat is going really fast, because we do have close to 300 people on this chat, keep in mind that if you're a premium member, like if you have paid access to our website, the chats are much smaller. They're closer to around 50 people, maybe 100 maximum. And so the chat goes much slower, and you get access to all the recorded webinars. You can watch it again. So if it goes too fast, you could always access it over and over again. And we do them 5 days a week. Whereas these public ones, it's hit or miss when we do it. It's whenever Adrian and Arthur are feeling festive. But if you're a premium member, it's 5 days a week. You get access to all the recorded webinars. So you can watch it again if it goes too fast. And the chats are obviously a lot smaller. Okay, moving right along. Thanks, Jason. Jason Thorne, right back at you. You're well worth it. Okay, a valid contract employs someone to specific legal tasks which involve representing the interests of the client to a third party. What kind of relationships is created by the contract? A, agency. B, OLT. C, fee simple. Or D, lease pendants. Okay, and obviously the answer is A, because that's what we're talking about today. A, agency. Okay, moving right along. In which of the following ways could an agency relationship not be created? A, oral contract. B, voluntary offer by the agent. C, implied contract. Or D, written contract. What do you guys think? And the answer is voluntary offer by the agent. There's got to be like acceptance involved somewhere. Who could tell me the 4 essentials of a valid contract? Ready, go. 4 essentials of a valid contract. The 4 essentials of a valid contract are lawful object, consideration, offer and acceptance, and capable parties. Okay? Lawful object, consideration, offer and acceptance, which could also be known as meeting of the minds or agreement, and capable parties. If a contract does not have one of those elements, what is the status of that contract? If a contract does not have one of those elements, what is the status of that contract? And the answer would be void. Void. Great job, everybody. Is writing an essential for all contracts? Do all contracts need to be in writing? Do all contracts need to be in writing? No. No. There are contracts that do not need to be in writing. If a contract does need to be in writing, but it is not in writing, what is the status of that contract? Listen to my question carefully. If a contract does need to be in writing, but it's not in writing, what is the status of that contract? And the answer is unenforceable. Oh, some of you guys have been studying. It's still a valid contract. It has the 4 essential elements. That would be unenforceable. Unenforceable. There you go. So I saw Sheila said in Illinois, all contracts need to be in writing. I will challenge you on that with the question of, Sheila, when you sit down at a restaurant and you order your food, do you have to pay for that food? And the answer is yes. Even though you didn't sign anything, you didn't say you paid for that, but when they brought you that check, you can't be like, no, I didn't sign it. No, I'm not paying for that. I'll give you $2 and you'll like it. Okay? You have an implied contract. All right? So there you guys go. Look at the questions carefully, everybody. All right? You got to look at those questions carefully. Everybody promise me you won't get tricked. One of my rules, okay, is be careful of words that are absolutes. Everybody know what an absolute is? Absolutes are words in your exam that are like always, never. Those are very scary. Always, never, everywhere. You prefer words like sometimes and usually. Those are a little bit nicer. Does everybody see why? Because in law, not just real estate law, okay, you have to know there's almost always an exception to just about every rule. That's why rich people don't always get in trouble with the law, because they're able to hire expensive lawyers to find that exception to the rule. Okay? It's one of the reasons our system needs a little help, because there's an exception to just about every single rule. And if you get a high-priced lawyer, they can very often find that little exception. So how does it apply to you? You need to be careful on your exam of words like always and never. Okay, those are absolutes. Could they be the answer? Sure they could. Sometimes they could be, but not always. See how I did that? You guys see how I did that? Just kind of worked it right back at you. Adrian, give me a fist bump on that one. That was cool. Okay, here we go. An agency relationship may be created by all the following, except A, an oral agreement. B, necessity or emergency. C, subsequent ratification. D, subordination. What do you guys think? An agency relationship may be created by all the following except A, an oral agreement. B, necessity or emergency. D, subsequent ratification. Or D, subordination. Okay, moving along. Boom. Subordination. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram. Once I get to 100,000 subscribers, I'm giving 10 people a fedora. In fact, maybe I'll give 100 people a fedora. When we get to 100,000 subscribers, fedoras for everybody at 100,000 subscribers. So make sure you subscribe to our Instagram. There's like little information for the real estate exam. There's pictures of me, pictures of my dog, things to motivate you, more videos about the real estate exam, facts, more pictures of me with my fedora. Okay, here we go. A listing that does not require a broker to use diligence in obtaining a purchaser is A, void, B, bilateral contract, C, not an exclusive listing, D, illegal. What do you guys think? A listing that does not require a broker to use diligence in obtaining a purchaser is A, void, B, bilateral contract, C, not an exclusive listing, or D, illegal. I do have 8 fedoras of 8 different colors. If you guys notice in my pictures, they're not always the same color. The green one's kind of hideous. I'll give that one away. Okay, the answer is not an exclusive listing. So let's talk about this. A listing is an employment contract. You have exclusive listings and non-exclusive listings. What is an exclusive listing? What is an exclusive listing? So an exclusive listing is when you have one broker. You're committed to that one person, just like an exclusive relationship. If you guys are in an exclusive relationship with your loved one, okay, you are involved with them and them alone. And therefore, on a listing, there needs to be a termination date because if they don't do a good job, you need time to move on. And it's a bilateral contract, so because they're the only one you're committed to, they must promise to use diligence in procuring a purchaser. Okay? In other words, an effort to become the procuring cause of the purchaser. Whereas a non-exclusive listing, you could move on to anybody at any time. You could hire as many brokers as you want. And much like a real relationship or romance, if you tell your loved one that, you know what, I'm with you, but I also want to be with whoever else I want to be with when I want to be with them, there's a good chance that that individual may not put that much effort into giving you what you want. Okay? And that would be that non-exclusive listing, which brings us to the answer on that board. A listing that does not require a broker to use diligence obtaining a purchaser is one that is not an exclusive listing. Also known as an open listing. That is right, Deborah Gardner. You are reading my mind, Deborah. Get out of my head. She knew it. Seller A lets buyer B assume that broker C was his agent. This type of agency relationship is an example of A, none of the other options are correct, B, ratification, C, ostensible authority, or D, estoppel. What do you guys think? And the answer is, boom, ostensible authority. And that's authority that a third person reasonably believes they have, as shown in this example and in the definition below. Great job, everybody. It was great to see everybody today. Love doing it. And we are finished for the webinar for the day. I saw some of you guys trying to create groups, meet up at Starbucks, study together. I recommend the chai latte on ice. I know it's not a very manly drink, but it's delicious nonetheless. And yes, I was also that guy in my college days who would order like the Starburst drink because I didn't want the manly drinks. I got those flavored delicious drinks. Think of me what you want. I'm comfortable enough with myself where I could order those foofy drinks. And now in my later years, I get those chai lattes. Same idea, same pride in my beverage. Okay, everybody, this is Joe from PrepAgent with Adrian. Have a great evening. Bye.